What's up, guys? Sitting here playing two tables, 10-20 on Eurolinks. I've probably played a couple of orbits so far, but absolutely nothing has happened. I think I have folded every single hand on both tables in like two orbits, so I should have a pretty tight image starting out. Well, actually, my image will probably be the same. I play here a decent amount, and most of these guys know how to play. As you can see, I've played a lot of hands with some of these guys. The table on the right, there's one weak player. Bambi's not very good. Everyone else is pretty solid person that I've played a decent amount of hands with, except for Christopher. I don't know anything about this particular player. With this king-queen, Crystal's opening up in the cutoff. His attempt to steal is 31, but his BFR is only 15, so that shows you he's going to be raising a lot of hands in late position. So I'm going to go ahead and 3-bet here with king-queen off. If I flop a king or queen, and if I flop top pair, I'm pretty much just going with it in a re-raise spot like this. He knows that I can 3-bet light, and he can 3-bet me light. If I was to get 4-bet there, I would throw the hand away. Alright, excuse me. Alright, so I got 10s on the button. If Culpa opens, I'll be 3-betting him. Otherwise, it's if Crystal would open, I would have I might be calling there some of the time. Probably call against him, to be honest with you. And he opens, I'm just going to go ahead and 3-bet him to 270. Alright, I got ace-5 off here in the big blind. Alright, it's a ace-9 3-flop, and I'm going to fire off a 3/4 pot continuation bet. If I get raised, I am throwing the hand away. I bet 425 into 567. And if he puts in any further action, I am done with the hand unless I improve. He check raises me all in. It's unfortunate, but I can't continue here. So I'm going to fold the hand and go on with it. I already got ace-8 off here in the small blind. It gets a good, solid, aggressive player, and a lot of times I'll fold this because it can be a tricky hand to play out of position. But against a weaker player, I'll open a lot of hands from the small blind. I try to play pots with the weaker players and avoid the good players at the table, but sometimes you can't help but mix it up. It's pretty interesting that he opened limped here. I thought he was a decent player, but I don't know. We'll see. And I know some good players that open limp, but usually there's a strong correlation between open limping and poor play. Alright, as you can see, 10-20 games are usually not very good. They're chock full of good players, and at the table on the left really seems to be. I know everyone at this table is a tough player. Now he open limps on the button, which really leads me to believe that he is going to be pretty weak, which is very odd. Open limping on the button is pretty much bad almost under all circumstances. Alright, so I river my straight with the Jack 5, and yeah, I'm just going to fire off a 3/4 bet. Pot size bet for value. Hopefully he calls me. He raises me. There's I have the nuts here. So there's really no reason to not go ahead and put some more money in the pot. Although I would expect we had the exact same hand a very large majority of the time. But you never know. Alright, he shoves, and yeah, we're just going to chop it up. But the fact that he limped on the button with Jack 10 off is pretty shocking. Alright, I got 8s. Iron Balls raised under the gun. That's not a hand I like to 3-bet. You kind of kill the value of your hand when you 3-bet it here. This particular guy, he leads into the field for a pot size bet, and I'm definitely not going to contest that flop with 3 overcards. Alright, one thing it's easy to do, and I really see this a lot, as you move up to 5-10 or 3-6, 5-10, 10-20, guys will really just start, in my opinion, just get fancy play syndrome, and they try to outplay guys every single pot, and really just battle and butt heads with some of the regulars, and I think that's silly. There's no need to go ahead and attack good players unless you have a specific weakness, or you know a specific weakness in their game. All right, and Culp open limps again, which is definitely a good sign. He may get the green dot if he keeps this up, and the green dot is how I note that people are weaker players. But basically, my reads on what I've got on iron balls, he obviously opens a lot of pots, and he's really tough and tricky. He plays very well post flop. Crystal's pretty tight, but can definitely splash around and mix it up pre flop with 3 bets, and is also another really tough player. Duma's a really tight, solid short stacker. Usually buys in for like 40 or 50 blinds, and it's kind of a pain to play with. And Stone Snake's another really good, solid regular. So game selection is, alright, I got ace-jack here, open it up, under the gun. Iron floats me on the cutoff, which you can do with a pretty wide range. I'm just going to fire off a pot-size bet here, which is 167 into... Alright, excuse me, 167 into 167. Alright, on turn I got a couple options. I could check raise all in if I felt he would bet the turn. And I'm going to check out his turn aggression, which is 2, and that's actually the line I'm going to take. I'm going to check here and check raise all in if he fires off. If he doesn't, if he checks behind, that's not a bad result either. I get a free card. And he bets 400 into 500, and I'm just going to check shove it here. He knows I can make this play as a semi-bluff, but my range when I am check raising here is very strong. So it puts in a tough spot. Basically, I made a pot size raise, so I can be bluffing here around, I can be bluffing here a significant amount of time from an optimal standpoint, if I showed up with the nuts. Assuming that's my good hands were the nuts and he didn't have outs against them, which he will. Alright, since he's tanking, he probably has like a, alright, king jack off. When you got good, solid players behind you, left to act, you got to fold down under the gun. You don't want to get in tricky spots, out of position. I expect he has a pair draw, and actually he just had a draw, a flush draw. His call there, I think it's pretty poor. Well, he needs 33% equity on the turn. He's got a gut shot and a flush draw. Which he's just not going to have on average, I don't think. Because his outs are going to be tainted. But it's pretty close. So we're not off to a good start, but hey, that's the way it goes. These are aggressive games and a couple buy-in swings either way. It's pretty standard. Alright, I'm in Jack 9. If this particular player would open limp, I'd isolate him. That's pretty easy. Open on the button, especially with a weaker player in the small blind. Although I will have to worry about 3 bets, which is exactly what happened from this player. I'm just going to fold it here and not get involved. Alright, I got pocket 4s in the hijack. This is a pretty easy open. If Crystal would have 3-bet me there, I would have folded the hand. His range is, I'd either folded or 3-bet there. Or, excuse me, 4-bet. His range is too wide for me to have implied odds to flop a set. Alright, if iron opens up, I'll probably go ahead and 3-bet. His attempt to steal is pretty high. It's 34. So I'm going to go ahead and 3-bet him to 260. I haven't been too super active yet, so I can get away with making a few plays like this. All right, to A7, just going to fire off a 3/4 pot bet, which is 125 and a 167. He calls pretty quickly, and I'm just going to check here. And now he checks behind. This is a pretty easy value bet in my mind. He can float here with, well, he can float here with weaker aces, and he can also float here with small pairs as well. So I'm going to go ahead and fire off a half pot size bet. I'll be getting called with a better hand here some of the time. But with the ace-7 there, reason I chose half pot size bet or even a full pot bet, he knows I can bluff on that board after he checks mine. We have a lot of them. We played 25,000 hands together, so we obviously have a lot of history. But the reason I chose a half pot size bet was that I'm trying to price him in there with weaker hands to call, such as, if I fire off a pot size bet, I think my range gets more and more polarized into big hands, or in his mind, big hands and bluffs. All right, deuce-6 off. I'm not going to contest if he were to attempt to steal. All right, here with jacks again. If he opens, I'd be 3-betting him. If Crystal would have 3-bet me there, I would have probably, since he 3-bet me earlier, I'd have probably gone ahead and 4-bet. Reason is, can be a tough hand to play out of position. When overcards flop in the blind battle, because his re-raising range is pretty wide, so I'd go ahead and 4-bet him, and it'll let him. He may be thinking that since he 3-bet me last time, that I'm getting tired of 4-betting. I don't have a hand. He may reshove on me later. All right, Colpo open limps, and I get ace-2 suited. I'm going to raise him up and isolate him. That's the third time he's open lamp, so he can probably do it with a fairly wide range. Not a particularly good board, but I'm going to fire off a pot size bet, see if I can't pick the pot up. And he check raises me, which is unfortunate, and obviously I can't contest here, and I just have to give the hand up. Alright. Queen-6 off, I won't be defending there. Alright, iron floats me again, and I'm going to fire off 3/4 pot size bet. And see if I can't pick the pot up. Alright, king-queen off. Pretty standard open. If I get 3-bet, I'll probably just have to throw my hand away. So I've been pretty active at this table. I'd have probably, if it was folding to me on the button, I'd have probably thrown the 6-10 away there. There's nobody in the blinds that I really want to play with. And I think the likelihood of getting 3-bets is pretty high. That's something you really need to pay attention to when you're opening hands, and who's behind you, who's the lefty act, what's their attempt to steal, how often will they 3-bet you, etc., etc. If you've got, it's easy to, when you're sitting there playing multiple tables, have a short stack, and just not be wary of where they're at and open too light and just let them shove on you. All right, here's an interesting. See if I can catch the pre-flop action. He looks like he called the open limp in the small blind, called his raise, and check called, and then led and called a shove. It's unfortunate on premium you can't see the hand histories, but oh, you know, he had kings over deuces. Wow. Oh, so I guess he called with king deuce. He opened, completed. Ugh. With king deuce, called a raise out of position, which is not good. All right, here I've 3-bet Culpa. He's pretty much attacked me in 2 flops. I've 3-bet him. This second time I've 3-bet him. And I isolate him once he attacked me. This is a board that he's going to be coming after, and it's going to hit his range pretty hard. So I just have to check here and give up. But I say Doom is pretty solid, and then he goes off and does something like that, which was rather silly. All right, now here I think he has a hand that he thinks has showdown value here, which is going to be a smallish pair, like a pair of 4s or a pair of 3s, deuces, something like that, or an ace high that he thinks that he can show down here. I don't think I have any bluffing equity. So I'm just going to check it down there. And he showed ace-queen, which is, yeah, I could have probably knocked him off that. However, but the other smaller pairs that are in his range, I'm just not going to be able to fold out. No way he'll give me credit for a hand after I play that action there. And I do think he can check it down there with some weaker ace highs. Alright, so if this table breaks, there's not any other 10-20 games running, I'll have to open up a 5-10 table. And I'm going to go ahead and hop on the wait list for a couple of them. Alright, now my image on this left table is going to be pretty crappy with this particular player. I've 3-bet him, and I just haven't shown up with it. So I'm going to have to show him a hand in the next little bit. Alright, 4-5, I'm just going to fold it. This player likes to 3-bet me a lot. There's no sense in opening it up. Alright, I have a new player that I don't know anything about. He posted on the cutoff, which is good. So hopefully the other weaker player got up off the table. Alright, 9-3 off. I'm going to go ahead and open it up. When I'm playing 3-handed, I open up a lot of hands from the button. It's almost like I don't open as many as I'm playing heads up, but I open a very large amount. Alright, a Queen Jack 4 board. I'm going to fire off a 3/4 pot size bet. Good board to see bet on. Doesn't hit a whole bunch of his range. Hits some of it. But it more importantly, it hits my range very hard, or my perceived range, which is really the biggest factors that you need to consider when you're making decisions in a hand. What your opponent's range is and what they perceive your range as. Alright, 10-9 off. Raising it up. Alright, when we're 3-handed like this, I'll be opening, like I said, almost any 2 suited on the button, and a lot of other weaker hands, until I have a reason not to, until these guys start 3-betting me or coming after me a decent amount. Which is fine, and that's almost what I want them to do, because it increases implied odds on all my other main hands. Alright, so I pick up a pair of queens here. I'm just going to go ahead and 3-bet. My image is pretty crappy with this guy. And I wouldn't be surprised if he gave me some action here, which is what I'm gunning for. Alright, comes a king high board. I'm actually going to, sometimes I check this behind, but it kind of really flips your hand face up when you do that. And he check calls the flop, which I think he's definitely, I think he has. He would check raise me all in with a pair of kings, so I think my hand's good. The question is, how did I get the most value from a 10? And I'm just going to check it back and look to extract on the river. He bets half pot, which that could be a blocking bet, or that could be a weaker king. However, I would really suspect that he would just go with a king there. I'm getting 3-1. Oh, my call here. Although I do think he would raise queen jack, jack 10, ace queen. Maybe he, I don't know if he pills with jack 9 or not. I don't know enough about this particular guy. But getting 3-1, I need 25% equity on this river, so I'm going to call him. And I get showed a king, which is really weird. Surprised he just didn't raise me up, but nice hand for him. Well, that river decision is pretty close. Given that I only need 25% equity, he might toss out a blocking bet there. Then I'm going to go ahead and call it. Some of that is, I'll make some thin calls so I can also to get some information that are close, because I do think I can use the information gained better than my opponents. Alright, ace 10 suited, raise it up, firing off a 3/4 pot size bet, and I'm going to go ahead and fire another one and plan to check it back on the river if he calls. Alright, Larson Limps, he's like a 40-20-ish player, I believe, if I remember right. He's not very good. So I'm going to go ahead and raise him up. And just fire off a continuation bet on this board. It doesn't hit much. He calls me pretty quick. It's 500 in the pot, and he's got 730 behind. So basically, I'd be committing myself if I were to bet here. And I'm not going to do it. He checks back again. And I'm just pretty much giving up on the pot at this point. Alright, Culper raises. I'll go ahead and 3-bet him here with ace queen. Alright, Larson calls 3 cold, which is... I think his range is wider than normal when he does do that. He's got 900s left. I'd probably fold out ace king if I fired jacks, all those small pairs. If I bet, there's no way I would be folding those out at all. Actually, I'm not sure. I'm not sure what his 3 call. It's going to be wider than your normal player, but I really don't know what his cold calling 3 range is. So I'm just going to give it up. I got 9, so I'm just going to smooth call here. I don't know anything at all about this particular player. He hasn't been too active or hadn't done anything out of line yet. Alright, Duma squeezes here. And he had 8. He had 50 blinds to start the hand with. And there's 3. I'm actually going to go ahead and go with this one. I think given the pot size and the money in there, I have enough equity against his range, because I do think he can toss out a squeeze here. Alright, with the jack 6 opened up, fired a c-bet. Now I'm just going to check it back. He had ace queen. So the turn wasn't a good result for me, but pre-flop I definitely think I had enough equity to continue with that one. Alright, the jack 6, when he calls me on that board and the 9 rolls off, I'm just giving it up. All right, so when you started off in the sessions, kind of going like this one has, when pretty much absolutely nothing's going right, uh, and your image gets bad on tables, you just kind of have to lock down and just play good solid poker. There's not a whole bunch you can do, and this is going to happen a decent amount. You're going to sit down. Yeah, there's Larson's stats. You're going to sit down. You're going to get beat up. You're going to get stuck for 2 or 3 buy-ins, and that's just the way it goes. Alright, so on this hand, it looks like Culpa raised from the small blind with a stack, or excuse me, Duma did, and Culpa shove with King Queen. It's just a pretty light shove, but he's going to have decent equity when the money goes in. He's never going to be in too horrible of shape, and he'll pick up that pot right there. So playing aggressively in spots like that, it's not bad. So I pick up 2 aces on the big blind. I'll just be looking to play a big pot somehow. If any of these cats raise it up, I'll be 3-betting them. He opens to 120, which is pretty weird. Okay, he opens to 120. He 3-bets to 440. I'm going to call here with my 7-6 suited and see if I can't get Larson to come along in this pot. If I call here, sometimes I'll go ahead and 4-bet, but if I call here, I may get Duma to shove over the top, which is what I'm trying to accomplish here. Which will put Culpa in a tough spot. Although my hand does look stronger when I play it like this. I don't think Duma's... I think he's just going to go with what other set hands he opens here. Now Culpa's in a really tough spot. I'm going to get 3-bet and I have to throw it away with the Jack-7 suited. Alright, and this is obviously a really good result. The only question is, should I time bank it and slow roll or go with it? Alright, so his shove 1-9s there. It's really, really bad, but the result was good for him. So, but as you can see, the calling there was definitely worked out to my advantage. I got Duma to shove with King Queen. I guess he thought he had some fold equity there, or had decent equity with the money in the pot. And then on top of that, I got Culpa to go ahead and shove with his 2 9s, which was just an excellent result, getting all in pre-flop with a smaller pair and 2 undercards. Alright, so I pick up Queen Jack. I'll be opening this up in the cutoff. Alright, Ace Jack, I'm going to be opening it up as well. And as you can see, there's a lot of 3-bets, and these games play really aggressive. And I think one of the things most guys struggle with, and really the game starts to change, like 200 no limit, and then it'll change again at like 1K no limit. The regulars start playing a lot better. It becomes much more aggressive, and then really the biggest jump I think in all no limit is the 1K to 2K jump. The regulars really start to get a lot better at 2K, and the games just get much tougher. But one of the biggest things is, I mentioned it earlier in the video, is just don't get fancy play syndrome and try to outplay guys every single hand. They just know you just don't have to do that. You have to play good solid poker, and people are going to run bluffs on you, and they're going to outplay you as well. That's just part of it. But it's not, you can't even think about it, oh, this guy outplayed me or whatever. I mean, it's just balancing your range is what you're looking to do. And to adequately balance your range, you're going to need to bluff a certain percentage of the time, and you're going to need to, obviously value bet a certain percentage of the time. And, all your bluffs aren't going to work, and all your you're going to run into bad hands. You're going to get in tricky spots, and that's part of it. If your bluffs worked 100% of the time, then you're not bluffing enough. All right, so I raise this particular player, limps, who I've never played it all with. I guess stored. I assume he's a Euro. Limps in the. I'm pretty sure he limped in the cutoff. Let me check my action. I was talking and wasn't entirely focused, but I can check right here. Yeah, he limps in the cutoff. Now he leads off on this flop. It's a flop that I'm just not going to be able to contest much with my hand. Because I bet he's looking to bet 3-bet there a lot. So it's pretty drawing. So I just have to let it go. But again, this is, the session's not going well. There's no sense in making moves. This guy hasn't seen much from me. But I haven't showed down. I don't think I've shown down I've shown down one winner this session. So I'm just not going to be able to do much. You have to be wary of your table image and how other players perceive you. This is a pretty interesting spot. He open limps in the small blind, calls a raise. Flop goes check, check. Turn checks. He check calls 146, and then he check raises all in on the river, which is a pretty slick move if he's running a bluff here. And the reason is this guy's gonna, when he checks the flop back there, he's checking for pot control, and I think this particular player knows it. And then he can check call a turn, which he can do with a variety of spades, etc. And then on the river, he could do it with jack. He could do it with a lot of hands, especially if he's playing a check raise bluff there. I really like his line if he was indeed bluffing there. I like it a lot. But as you can see, this guy's definitely got a solid thought process post flop. He's got some fundamental flaws, but you kind of see that from the Europeans. They'll have what I call fundamental leaks in their game, but they do make very good decisions. They read hands well, but they just have some mistakes that'll compound. Being a little too loose pre-flop, and not respecting position enough are two mistakes I see a lot of European players make, which can obviously lead themselves into really they can compound themselves into big mistakes. But they are tricky, and they are not afraid to run a bluff. Alright, I get 8-jack off. I'm just folding that. I know Crystal can be raising Larson line. Larson's definitely driving the action on this table, but I can't come after these cats with my image now. I'm just going to have to show down a hand. Larson check calls pretty quick here. He'll do that with any pair, any draw. This is a good spot for Crystal. Well, I was going to say 3-barrel, but you kind of have to make your decision on the turn if you're going to 3-barrel. Wow. And he showed down ace-king there, which is horrendously atrocious. And that's why, what's unfortunate about these stakes is guys like that just don't last long. They just get picked off, whereas at the lower stakes games, when they're not taking the worst of it as bad. But they just don't last long, and the games are tougher. But he reloaded, so that's good. All right, Silicon seems to be a decent player. Well, I say that, and then he min-raises. But now that he min-raises, I'm going to go ahead and 3-bet him up to 200, 210. All right, if he min-raises again, I'm going to come after him one more time with the 9-7. But since he didn't min-raise, I'm just going to throw my hand away. I've got Poker Tracker importing, so we should have some stats pretty soon. All right, this guy open completes. I got ace-10 off. I'm going to go ahead and 3-bet him up. All right, queen 4 off. Even if this was suited, I would come out. I would definitely try to play a pot with Larson, but it's offsuit. He just saw his action with the ace king, so he's definitely not going to be looking to fold a hand at all. And I'm out of position, so I just got to go ahead and throw that away. But I do like, obviously, when there's weaker players in the game, you want to try to play as many pots as possible with that particular player. I mean, that's where your edge comes from. And I think against much weaker competition, my positional disadvantage is negated to a certain extent because I just make so much better decisions than they do post-flop. All right, Vinny opens up here. His attempted steal is 50, which is really, really high. And if he's opening that many hands on the button, and he's just not going to be able to call too many 3-bets, so I'm going to go ahead and 3-bet him here to 260. And when you're playing in smaller stakes games, all right, I get king queen off. This player opens on the gun. He's open limp in the cutoff, or excuse me, in the small blind once. Other than that, he's been pretty seemingly tagged, so I'm just going to throw this away. But when you're playing in smaller stakes games, you can have super high attempted steals. I find because guys just don't come after you enough. They play loosely or they just call out of the blinds. The games are generally more passive. But as you move up and there's good solid players in the blinds, if you have a really high attempt to steal, I think that's an easily exploitable lead. Because the fact of the matter is, guys can just 3-bet you, unless you start 4-betting them a lot and rebluffing them a large amount. All right, ace-7 suit. I'm going to go ahead and raise it up. I would normally do this if this short statter had actually limped in, but since he posted, his range is obviously a random hand. All right, he limps behind and calls. That flop's going to hit his range a little bit, but I've got a lot of cards that can come off on the turn that I can bluff at, and I'm probably going to be firing double barrels here, a decent amount, but I'm going to fire off 3/4 pot. He calls me pretty quick. I'm going to go ahead and stick him one more here. That's not a good card to bluff at, but I still have some outs and some bluffing equity on the river. So I'm going to fire 388 into 537. Alright, and this is a card I'll definitely stick in the last barrel with. So I'm going to fire off 970 into 1340. And I pick up the pot, which is a good result. And that's what I meant when I said I had bluffing equity on the river. Any king, any jack, any queen. Ace obviously makes my hand, completes my hand. And he just doesn't have a strong hand there very often. Alright, so one limper, I raise up to 90. I get 3-bet by a pretty loose aggressive player. I could call here and play a flop. And actually his pre-flop raise is 20, so he could probably be isolating me here a decent amount, and that's the line I'm going to take. And basically on this flop, I'm just looking to check raise all in. He checks it back. I'm going to fire off 515 into 687. Alright, so I get jack 9 off and fold it on the gun. And when I consider bluffing equity, on the turn, when you're analyzing hands, the only time you can really use hot and cold equity is when you're all in, because that's really the only time it's good for. Because there's a lot, there's a lot kind of different kinds of equity you can have. Like, that was a pretty good example of it. I could fire again on that turn, because when any jack, queen, king rolls off, those are pretty much 12 outs I have that I'm going to fire at, and an ace makes my hand. So I have a lot of quote-unquote outs. Some of them are going to get picked off, but against my entire range, those are going to hit my range pretty hard there. So I'm definitely going to have to bluff at him some. Alright, he opens up in the cutoff, and I got ace-9 suited. Just going to call here in the big blind, flop an ace. Uh, he fires off a pot size bet. I'm going to call here. I'll definitely be calling the turn if he pots it again on the. Already checks here. Really, I'm going to go ahead and just value bet this on the river. I'm bet 3/4 pot. If he check calls, if he check raises me all in, that'll be terrible. Actually, he raises me, which is 3x. I've got a pair and a gut shot here. Basically, I don't think my pair is good often, so I'd be riding on my gut shot or my 9, assuming it's good. Which I could already be drawing dead to. So this is a pretty standard, easy fold. He'd have to be making an outright bluff here with just, Queen Jack, Jack 9, hands like that, a large amount for me to make this call. So I'm going to go ahead and fold it. I could have checked that one back, that ace 9 right there, but I think my hand's strong enough to get 2 streets of value. But when he check raised me, his distribution, I think, has changed now, given the action, so I have to reevaluate my plan and throw it away. Alright, so I raised 3s here from the hijack. Larson calls, and good player raises in the cutoff, which, since Larson's short, he's probably not making too many squeezes here. If we were all full stacks, I would definitely call him because I'd want to bring him along with a full stack. But there's no way I can go ahead and do that, because even though I do think his hand distribution is pretty strong, and I probably do have implied odds to continue, I have to worry about Larson shoving over the top. And then if he shoves over the top, I'm pretty much either pot committed if he folds, or I'm going to just have to fold the hand if he calls or shoves. So I have to pitch it there. And he shoved over the top, which doesn't surprise me at all. And his 8s are good. All right, Crystal, go ahead. He opens up. I'm going to 3-bet him here with the King Jack suited. I'd probably fold King Jack off to this particular player, but King Jack suited is going to give me a few more options post flop. And he 3-bets me again on this other table. As I mentioned earlier, he can get a little crazy with the 3-bets. No, actually, I'm probably, if it's folded to me, depending on the size, I got to call 170. Well, he doesn't have enough in his stack for me to call here, I don't think. I'd like to get 10-1 on my calls. But since I opened up the gun and he 3-bet me, I think his hand range is probably slightly stronger here. And we'll have implied odds to continue there some, but he needs to have a bigger stack. Alright, 10 Jack suited. Still, again, I don't know much about this player. I got Larson left act behind me. He's somebody I want in the pot, so I'm just going to cold call here with my 10 Jack suited. Alright, aces, small blind. This is a pretty easy 3-bet. We're semi-deep. This is a board that I'm not super thrilled about getting in, but I will play for stacks here. Alright, this player fires off 187 into 163 into 187. I'm actually going to raise him up here to 500. And I'm not really representing a ton of hands on this board, but I don't think I'm going to get rebluffed here very often either. I don't know. I just wouldn't assume that this particular player is going to be rebluffed. I mean, any turbo shoves it, and I have to fold it. But my logic for that is, yeah, the board doesn't hit his range too terribly hard, and I'm just going to go on, since I don't think he's going to be rebluffing me much. Yeah, I'm not representing many hands there. But since I don't think he's rebluffing me a whole bunch there, then I can go ahead and pick up that pot with it pretty consistently. Although that is spots against good thingy players you do have to be careful about because they will rebluff you. Alright, so I'm going to play a few more orbits and call it quits. We'll go through my hands on Poker Tracker. I'm going to sit down from this table. Alright, ace-5 suited and open for me. If I get 3-bet, I'll have to throw the hand away. I do, and just can't continue here. Even though this can be a squeeze a decent amount of time, you just can't contest every single one. Alright, so I'll play one more hand, and then we'll go through Poker Tracker and check out the big pots that I played. Alright, Queen-5 off's a pretty easy fold. Alright, so I played 210 hands and got stuck $7,500, which is not a good result. So I'm going to pull up big pots. I really didn't win very many big pots, just in this 8-7 suited. Which was... Actually, it was two separate hands, but we'll go through them pretty quick. This is a hand. This is a double barrel hand where I just short stack lamp or post. He limps behind. His range is going to be pretty wide there. And basically, this is just a spot where I go ahead and fire 3 barrels. I mean, his hand range there is very weak. The deuce is not necessarily a good card to fire the second barrel on, but since it's a multi-street situation, I can go ahead. I have some bluffing equity on the river. And my distribution here is pretty strong, so his effective price is going to be really poor to call me down. It's almost going to be 1-to-1 here on boards like this. So I just call, and then when the queen fires off on the river, that I continue and fire 970 into 1300. Alright, and the other ace-7 suited hand that I won was this pot against iron. I raise it up, and hijack, he calls, and I'm just going for... basically pot control on the turn. He checks it back, and then on the river it's just a half pot for value. I would bet bigger if I thought my hand was going to be good, that he wouldn't call me with a better hand on the river. Alright, no, I didn't really win any other big pots, unfortunately. So let's go look at the ones I lost. Ace-Jack suited, I guess this is perhaps the most interesting hand the mix here. But since, as you saw throughout that session, that this particular player likes to float me a decent amount, so I kind of have to negate his positional advantage with some turn check raises, which I will do here with pretty strong range. I can check raise Jack 9, a large amount of hands for value here. And then I check, and he bets 400, and I go ahead and stick it in. And I'm actually curious to see exactly what my equity will be in this spot. And I've got 75% equity with ace high against this particular hand, so that's pretty awesome. And I don't really like his turn call at all here. I do think he it's just priced out at this point, because I think my distribution is just too strong. Alright, in the aces, this is pretty straightforward. Is the cold call is the only interesting thing, but the logic's pretty solid call here, and the reason is I think Duma will go ahead and shove over. He may think he has fold equity, or I really don't know what is running through his mind there actually. But it worked out good, and then Cole plus shoves with his nines, and which is a great result for me, and that hand played out excellent. All right, and then I played a hand with the queens, and my river call here is pretty close, because when he peels on this flop, his range is gonna be pretty strong. Jacks, pair of tens. I check it back on the river, which kind of shows weakness. He throws off a half pot bet on the river for value, so I'm getting 3-1 on the river, so I need to be good 25% of the time. I think he can block bet a 10 here some of the time. And, if he can black bet a 10, he can black bet jacks. So, there's, it's actually probably, it's pretty close. Because there needs to be some bluffs in his range for me to call there, because I don't think he's going to block bet enough with those weaker hands. But also, another thing to keep in mind is that I do gain some information about what he's cold calling with out of position, what he's pulling the flop with, how he's treating those hands. I did think he would check raise most strong kings there on that flop, although I do like his line. It's pretty solid. So I decided to make, even if it was close and it was a negative EV decision, I think the information I gain I can leverage in future hands. So it could be negative EV in a vacuum, but over the course of a session, it could turn out to be plus EV. And in no limit gaining, since there's not a lot of information exchange, it's not an information saturated environment. Getting as much information as you can be very profitable for you, especially if you can use that information better than your opponents. Here with the nines, cold call, under the gun raise. I don't know much at all about this player, so I didn't choose the 3-bet. All right, Duma goes ahead and squeezes here. I think I have enough equity against his squeezing range to go ahead and play for the rest of his stack with the money in the pot. If there wasn't a decent amount of money in the pot, I could go ahead and throw that away. So I'll go ahead and shove there. All right, and with the tens, that's I guess really the only. This one's pretty straightforward as well with the 3-bet. Ace high boards, you just have to c-bet those boards because they don't hit. You'll pick up the pot such a high percentage of the time. I mean, yeah, you're kind of turning your hand into a bluff, but it's better than trying to play this pot, checking back there and trying to play a tricky pot. So I fold it, and after he races me, I can't continue with the hand. So that's it, guys. Hope you enjoyed it.